how does Britain compare when it comes to the treatment for channel migrants, asylum seekers, illegal immigrants, as opposed to some of our European friends? Why are they all coming here?
Well, they are not all coming to Britain, as a matter of fact. A lot of them stays on the European continent, and I see that many of the EU member states are facing the same difficulties as the UK government, and it's very problematic. As a matter of fact, last year only, EU received 330,000 illegal immigrants, the highest number since 2016, and the reason is obvious. This is economic migration, and there is not enough willingness to deal with the problem. I mean, just look at the mindset in Brussels, which is a city where you're really not allowed to talk about illegal migration, but irregular migration. That's what the official documents of the EU say. And not only is that a fact, the EU Parliament is even trying to remove the fight against irregular migration from the key paragraphs of EU migration policy, against the will of more sober member states' governments. So there is a fight going on in Europe over this.
What happens if somebody illegally arrives in Sweden then? Well, because at the moment here, a lot of people are very angry, as you well know, about you getting put up in hotels, will even in some cases build you a place to live or just give you a place to live that could have been used to house anybody else, homeless people already. So there is a trope that you get treated better as an illegal migrant in Britain than you do elsewhere. What would happen in Sweden?
Mm-hmm. Well, Sweden under the last government was very much like the UK. I mean, Sweden even handed out leaflets in the Middle East instructing potential migrants on how to receive welfare upon arrival in Sweden. Sort of marketing exercise. With the new conservative government, we are going about an international information campaign on the paradigm shift in migration policies in Sweden. That includes increased internal checks on foreigners and instructing government agencies, including the tax agency, to work to find illegals and eventually to deport them. This is the new policy of Sweden, and it also includes, I might add, aid policy, which now will be focused on counteracting illegal migration, increased returns, voluntary repatriation. And this has spilled over to Brussels, as a matter of fact. For the first time ever, the EU Parliament has said that it's the right thing for the EU to withhold aid to countries who refuse to receive their own nationals. So there is a shift going on here. And the sad thing is that it had to go.
Yeah.
We have segregation to a point that means one shooting a day, bombings every week. So let's hope it doesn't get that far in the UK.
No, exactly. And I remember a few years ago starting to report really on what was going on in Sweden and being incredibly concerned about it, and other countries as well. And it is interesting now that you say that Brussels is starting to get tough. So do you think that there is an attitude in the European Union, on the continent there, to help wave people through because they know that the end point is Britain, and frankly that stops being their problem then?
Yeah. Of course, this has been the policy up until now by EU frontier states such as Greece, Italy, so on and so forth. And Sweden, UK, and others have happily received those waved through immigrants. This is changing in Sweden, and when we impose internal border controls towards Denmark, Denmark will impose it towards Germany, Germany towards Austria, Austria towards Italy. This is the new mindset building up in Europe because voters are getting sick and tired of politicians sitting and doing nothing about this problem. And that will leave Italy in a situation where they basically will have to implement an Australian policy, and meaning that if you try to enter Italy or the EU illegally, you will forfeit your right to apply for asylum. And you have started to see Italy realizing that by negotiating with Tunisia in order to be able to return the boats without those individuals being able to apply for asylum. This is a paradigm shift in and by itself, and it has been accepted by all the other EU member states as part of EU migration policy. Let's see if it stands in the end, but it's an interesting tendency.
Just very, very quickly, because we are a bit pressed for time, do you have problems with lawyers trying to block deportations? We would call them lefty lawyers here in Britain.
Well, not to the extent that the UK has problems with it, but we are following the debate, and we are asking ourselves whether this paradigm shift will stand the test of Strasbourg, or if we will have to draw conclusions by activist lawyers trying to undo Sweden's immigration policies. This is a debate to come in Sweden and in the EU as well.